what is your name and when were you born?
Oh, the name is Frank Edward Reid. The Edward is from my father. His name was Edward. When was I born? Oh, that would be just a long time ago. 22nd of April.
1927.
1927, yeah.
1927.
Yeah.
And how about yourself, Grandma?
Well, I was born in Upney Hospital in Barking on the 30th of January 1929. Apparently it was one of the worst winters they'd known for years. It snowed and snowed and snowed. Yeah. But there you are, that welcomed me.
That's not because she was born, that didn't make it the worst winter.
Are you sure? It does sound like it was a bad omen. But obviously a good omen for the 30th of January, because that's when I was born too. So
that's right.
So I was one of two, I'm a twin.
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
And what was your twin's name?
Elsie.
Elsie Lilius.
Elsie Lilius.
That's a good middle name. I think it's a biblical one. Lilith, I think. Lilith or Lilith?
Lilius.
Lilias.
Yeah.
Lilias.
We used to call her Silias, which didn't go down very well.
I can imagine, to be fair. And who were your parents, if you want to kind of say a little bit?
You want to mention your sisters, Frank?
Oh, well, yes, I had two more sisters.
Older than you?
Yeah, both older than me. The oldest one was Joyce.
Joyce Beatrice.
Joyce Beatrice Reid. And then the next one was Ruth. I've forgotten her second name. Did she have one?
Ruth. I don't know, love.
Can't remember. It was Ruth Reid. And then they was just getting into the swing of things. And then she had twins. So I said, enough.
Yeah, I imagine something like that really takes its toll at that kind of age.
Well, 4 children then, under 5 your mum had, didn't she?
4 under 5, and Dad was only a postman. Money was a bit tight. There you are.
Well, I had one older sister, 7 years older than me. She was born in Barking as well. So they moved down from Old Kent Road, round that way, into somebody at Barking called Aunt Polly George, because my name was George before I got married, Sheila George. Aunt Polly George had a room, just a bedroom, so my mum and dad moved down into Barking, and that's how we started living in Barking.
And if you like, could you tell me a bit more about kind of your parents? You're saying your dad was a postman. What was your dad's name and your mother's?
That was Edward Reid.
Edward, yes. Edward something
Edward
Reid,
Reid.
I don't know.
He was one of 6, I think. I don't know, it's 6 or 7. A lot of brothers, no sisters.
Oh, there were sisters, Frank.
No.
Well, because I know your sisters used to go and visit them in East Ham.
She knows more about it than I do.
Well, you don't remember, because you didn't visit them, did you?
No.
No.
Very seldom we visited East Ham.
Why, what's that?
Well, I suppose a young boy wasn't interested.
It was a different lifestyle they had at East Ham to the one we had in Bow. I mean, every Sunday we'd be off to church. Now, East Ham, they never set foot into church after they got married. And there were 2 different types of people.
You might as well... The whole point of it was why they'd come to be at East Ham, wasn't it? Because your granddad lived in Scotland. They all lived in Scotland, didn't they, your granddad?
Yeah, they were all
and
Scottish
they drank.
family. Yeah.
And your grandma got so fed up with it, she just collected the children and came and lived down here, didn't she? Left him.
Left him up there in Scotland.
And
I did see him once. I was only 8, 9, 10, something like that. And after school, I'd gone over to the park to watch the football. Our school was playing football, and they turned up to fetch me because he'd come down drunk as a lord, and he wanted to see his grandchildren. So they came over and dragged us over there, and he was pie-eyed then. He didn't really take anything in at all. I only saw him that once, that grandfather. The other one I did, on the mother's side, but not on the father's side.
Did you kind of grow to? Did you resent him for that, or is it one of those things where it's just
Not really.
pay
I
no
mean, I
heed?
wasn't the age then to go into detail. You didn't know what happened. Really.
People used to cover things up a lot.
It was all covered up. It was all hush-hush. Yeah. And of course, Dad moved out because my father was born in Scotland. He's a Scot,
Well,
really.
your grandma brought you all down, didn't
But
she?
she brought us all down here to
Brought you all
Bow.
down when your
And we had
father was
I
quite
never
young.
saw him at all until what must have been about 7, 8. And they came and took me home from a lovely football match that I was watching because he wanted to see us. And when I got there, he was pie-eyed then, and he sat there, oh yeah, like that. And that's the only time I saw my father's father.
So that would make you 50% Scottish, would it be, if your dad was born in
Well,
Scotland?
Yes, because he was a thorough Scot, my father, born and
He
bred
was-
in Scotland,
he
of
was
Scottish
Scottish,
parents.
So so that would make my dad's 25% Scottish. So that would make me.
Because it is a very Scottish name, Reid.
Reid
apparently.
is a
Spelt like
Scottish
that.
name,
It's a very
R-E-I-D.
Scottish
yeah.
name.
Yeah, I remember hearing about Clan Reid at some point.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And you were talking about your grandparents on your mother's side. What were they kind of like?
No, I don't remember a great deal.
Yeah,
They
you
were
do.
all
Grandma,
London
yeah,
born.
you lived in the same house as
Yeah,
Frank.
we was in the same house in Bow.
Mm.
They lived on the second floor up, and then you've got the middle floor, which was there. My mother's bedroom was on the middle floor. Our bedrooms were down below ground level. Our living room was below ground level. It was they're quite big houses in Bow. But we lived there until I was about 13, I suppose, when we moved out from Bow.
No, you were 7 when you moved to
Oh,
Elm
yeah.
Park, Frank.
Yeah, that's right. We moved to Elm Park when they started building Elm Park, and Dad got a house there, and we moved out from Bow.
Okay. And how about yourself, Grandma? What about your parents?
Well, we lived at there's a picture in there actually of me in Barking Park. We lived in Barking. Above the Parking Park was a lovely park. They had a train, they had a boating lake, and we lived just beside the park. There was a post office, and above that we had there was a flat. 2 maiden ladies ran the post office. I expect they were sisters, I don't know. And we lived there in this flat with my sister and Mum and Dad. And then they built the Becontree estate, which is at Dagenham. They built it really when Ford started. They built the big estate to employ people at Ford. And then they applied for a council house there, and we lived in Becontree then. And my dad had a job in on the railways. He was a railway. He cleaned the carriages, and there was a lot of unemployment. We lived in what they called a banjo. It was like a little cul-de-sac, and a lot of people there. A lot of them were dockies, but those that wasn't were more likely not unemployed. But my father got a job on the railway. He was a cleaner. He used to work from 6 to 2 one week, 6 in the morning till 2 o'clock. The next week he worked from 2 in the afternoon till 6 in the morning, and the last week he did was night work. And that's how he went on and on until he was elderly, and then
When he retired, didn't he?
well, no, he got TB and had to go away for 6 months. When they came back, they put him in the stores at Loughton, and he worked in the stores there till they retired.
it kind of sounds like you had kind of quite working class kind of upbringing.
Oh yes,
yes,
yes.
yeah.
Well, to be quite honest, I didn't really know my father.
Mm.
He was just somebody that used to come and go, and because 6 to 2, as we came out of school, he'd gone. 2 to 10, just out as we came to school, he'd gone. And then night work, you'd come home, sleep in bed. And then when he retired, well then I found out what a lovely man he was. But before that, I didn't really see very much of him at all. But he earned, for those days, quite good money, so we were, well, you had to be satisfied with what you got. So work hard, because you might end up like that.
You know, something I didn't really expect coming into this is kind of, you know, obviously with you kind of not knowing your father much until, obviously because of work reasons.
Well,
until
yeah,
your
you
father.
used to have a day off every now and again and you knew him, but he was very tired on those days off.
Yeah.
But he was a lovely man, wasn't he, Frank?
Oh yeah.
Very kind, gentle man. Gentleman. But our name was George. I was Sheila George.
So you moved to the Beckentry estate,
Yeah.
and you moved to Elm Park.
Oh,
That's it.
So what were your kind of experiences after moving like? So the pig
that's
goes
the
off.
pig in the kitchen.
That's the pig.
Well, you tell him about when the war started, Frank.
Oh yeah, oh, I loved it when the war started because schools were closed down and evacuated, and Dad said, "You're not going." We weren't evacuated with the school, and we used to just go over the park all day long. They never knew where we were or what we were doing. We had a time of our life, and it was we weren't just the odd ones out. There was quite a lot of us that weren't evacuated during the war, and we still lived at Elm Park. Of course, you've got Hornchurch Aerodrome at the side, so we used to get the Jerry's coming over to go after that. And we used to be over there. The airmen would open the gate, come in, and they'd give us a glass of lemonade or something. And we used to have the time of our life, really, at the beginning of the war.
So that how old would you be then? About 12?
I'd have been 11, 12.
11, 12. It's kind of surprising because they hear thinking of the bombs going down and having a kind of carefree.
Well, yes, I mean the airmen were all in their, I don't know what they call it, but
Uniform.
well, it was in uniform. I mean the housing that they were in, it was like a big canteen. But there used to be crowds of us, kids in there, all go down. We're going over the aerodrome now, and you would. The gates are open, you walk in, and they'd come on in, you lot, and they'd sit us down and give us a lemonade or a cup of tea.
Can't imagine that happening now.
Not now, it wouldn't happen now, but then it did, and we were quite happy, so were they. Yeah.
Would they have gotten in trouble for letting you in, or was it just a kind of...
No, it was known that we were in there, but if the sirens went off, then you had to out quick. You had to vacate the place then.
And did that ever happen while you were at the aerodrome, or was it just something that might have happened when friends were at the aerodrome to have the sirens go off?
Oh yeah, you get the Jerry's come over, and if the sirens went off during the day, well, come on, you lot out. And we used to scarper out.
It was really dangerous living there.
It was dangerous.
Yeah,
But
the aerodrome.
we used to thoroughly enjoy it, Hornchurch Aerodrome.
Must be a kind of young boy's dream to see all of that around.
I mean, our school looked out over the airfield, and we could see just before the war there were gladiators. We watched them taking off, flying round, and they come down right over our playground to land back in the airfield there.
So that was kind of early war, kind of 1939
That's
to 40.
right, yeah.
And so when you moved to the Beckentry estate, how whenabouts would that have been, or how old would you have been?
I was about 5 or 6 then, I think.
How was it? So that would put
There are some pictures somewhere. I think they may be in the loft of me and my sister in the porch of the little council house we had. They were small, but I think my mother thought well, they all thought they were in heaven because they had a little bit of garden. But we couldn't afford to buy a house then. But there you are.
And
That's how it was.
how long were you living on the Beckentry estate?
Well, we still lived there, and then after we got married, my mother and father moved to the other side of the Beckentry estate in Porter's Avenue, which was a nicer council house. But my sister and I had our own bedrooms because she was 7 years older than me, so at that time it was better really. And then we lived there until after we got married. We still lived there, didn't we, Frank?
Oh, yeah.
For so many years before we could afford to buy a house at Elm Park. But I was evacuated. My sister and mother and all those were at home, but I was evacuated for a little while to Bath. But because they called it then the phony war, nothing happened for months on end.
No.
So I came home again.
How old were you when you were evacuated to Bath?
11.
11.
And that was the age, well, under 11, just under 11 really. Because when I came back, I'd won the scholarship and went to the Dagenham County High at Beckentry.
Okay.
And all that time the war was on.
So, how long were you in Bath? In
Bath about 6 months, I think. But as nothing happened, most of them just drifted back home again. But then they did start, and we were bombed out there, but we had I don't know quite what happened, but it was in the road outside or on the roof. The landmine was nearby, and the house was gutted a lot, but enough for us to still stay there, and people come in and sort of mend it round us. But apart from that, we got through the war. But I was at I got the scholarship to a high school, but that wasn't very good because most of the teachers were all evacuated, and my mother thought that I wasn't going to get anywhere there, so she took me out of school and said, "You get yourself a job." And I went to work at May and Baker's at
Chemical factory.
Upminster Way, Dagenham, in the office, doing, well, ledger work really, ordering stuff in and ordering and adding up. I thoroughly enjoyed it because I always liked maths and adding up. I could have gone a lot farther, but they didn't believe in education like those days as you are, and your brother and everybody having further education.
Different time.
Get out and go to work, earn some money. I can remember what I got when I first left and went to May and Baker's, and that was 12 and 6 a week. And my mother used to give me back the 2 and 6, and I gave her the 10 shillings.
Got to supply upkeep somehow.
I don't know what you did with your money, Frank, but there you are. Perhaps you can't remember.
I can't really. Well, I do know I was on about 12 shillings.
Yeah.
Started first of all, I think 10 or 11 shillings a week, and then you served at, I think it was 3 months, and then because it was the post office, and then they said, right, that's all right, he's okay, we'll keep him in, and they give you a rise then.
Well, before we kind of go on to the kind of occupations and work and everything, because that you'd probably be about 16ish then, I imagine.
Yes.
You know, is there any kind of significant memories you have of your childhood? Anything you kind of remember about the lifestyle you lived, or any kind of interesting life events that happened that you can think of?
Oh yes, I mean where I lived in Bow, my grandmother lived on the top floor. That was 3 floors up, and underneath there she let a couple of rooms to somebody else. We never knew, there was no relation or anything like that, And then the next floor was bedrooms, where my mother and father had their bedroom, and we had a little box room on there, and we lived in the basement. Used to go down the area to go through your front door. Our front door wasn't on the pavement, it was down the area.
Down in the
Down the area. There was a front door, but that was up on more or less the first floor, with all the steps outside. I mean, those houses are still there now.
I was going to say, they're worth a bomb now.
Yeah, they're going.
You would never be able to
wouldn't be able to
afford
afford them now.
I don't suppose you can remember the address or anything like that.
Oh yes, number 12 Kenilworth Road,
Yes.
right opposite where we lived. There was a little tiny road called Bunsen Street that went over to a main road, Grove Road, that went right up Hackney and so on, and then right through the Victoria Park. But our part was, we were the slum, and they were the upmarket.
It's interesting kind of living in that big building with so many things let out, kind of making your way to the basement. And
Oh
everything.
yeah,
It's very-
But your grandma never owned it, did she? Frank?
No.
Who she paid the rent to, you haven't a clue, have you?
No, I don't know who owned it, but the whole road like that, Kenilworth Road was like that. People were renting from somebody else, but we never knew who the rent was paid to. Well, I wouldn't at that age. I was only 7, I think, when we moved from there.
And
I know our front door, you go down about 10, probably more steps than that, into what they called the area. From the pavement you could look down through the railings and see our steps going down and see our front door right down there.
still see a lot of that in London.
Oh yeah,
I don't know how people
they're
live
still
Well, they're
there.
all split up into flats now, and they're worth a bomb actually, aren't they?
Yeah.
So I remember you kind of telling a story about you kind of sitting on a railroad at Elm Park and kind of, or throwing stones at construction workers or something like that.
Yeah, I think he was well, I
Type.
don't think his mum neglected you, but once you were out
She never knew what I was up
she was,
to.
she was terribly worried. We were never allowed out the house like that, my goodness me. My mother and father, my mother didn't have a very good upbringing in Bow. Not Bow, Old Kent Road. So I think she was quite determined that we would be brought up more as young ladies, not allowed to. So I would never have been allowed to go out. Allowed to go to the park sometimes with a friend and come back, but not to run wild. And
Not like a young
Not by any
rapscallion like
means.
Grandad. Not like a young vandal like Grandad.
No. I mean, when we moved to Elm Park, they'd only just opened the station, and there was perhaps 6 blocks of houses, and each block had got, I think it was 6 or 8 houses in it, and I watched them build the whole of Elm Park from when we moved in there. Yeah, we saw that grow from nothing.
So when you were kind of going over to the aerodrome, was it just kind of mostly countryside?
Oh yes, it was all countryside, but we knew our way because we used to see them come down, so we go over there.
Yeah, just follow the planes.
And the airmen used to take us in there and give us a lemonade and things like that in their
yeah,
mess.
well, they would never, well, they wouldn't be allowed to do it now.
Oh
would
no,
they,
we
children,
couldn't do it now.
young boys, or well, when you got to 18, you went in the army, didn't you, Frank?
Yeah, no, I was only 12 when the war started.
Yeah.
But I mean, we used to go down the shelter. We had the Anderson shelter, but when we could hear the planes going. Dad and I used to go up out the shelter to watch them going over.
Yeah.
And we saw the Jerry bombers coming down just above roof height and strafing across Elm Park, because the aerodrome was only just over there, and we used to go there and bomb that.
But you did have a bomb in the road, didn't you, Frank?
Oh, we had one right outside.
Really?
A time bomb dropped right outside our place into the road. And as we came out, they said, "Come on, there's a bomb there." And as we went out, we said to my sisters, "Look, there's the hole where it went in, it's gone." That went off the next morning, so we had a huge, great crater outside the house. And they came and filled in and rebuilt the road.
How long did that take to rebuild the roads?
Oh, 2 months.
2
Between 2 and 3 months it took them to do that.
A big crater outside the house.
Yeah.
So it's so odd to think just a time bomb, just very casually, just going, oh look, there's a bomb.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a
That's
crater
when the
now.
bomb went in, you could see the hole where the thing had...
Lucky it didn't go straight off from the ground.
Oh, yeah.
Were there kind of any points where you grew a bit frustrated, upset, scared of
No,
during
not
the war?
really, no.
Just one of those things that you...
I think you had to accept it.
Well, yeah.
That's how it was.
That's what was happening.
Oh,
Because when we came out, because we had to get out the house and out the shelter because of this time
But
bomb
you went round to a
outside.
friend round the corner.
And as we came out, I said, oh look, there's the hole, and my sisters, way they'd gone out running up the road. They didn't want to know about the bomb that was down in that hole.
I mean, I honestly cannot blame them in the slightest for that. I will be perfectly honest.
Well, our age was on our side, really, because
I think at
we
age
didn't
you
worry
don't
about
grumble a lot. There's no
it
much.
so
What's the point of grumbling?
No.
We were bombed out at Porters Avenue. They had something through the ceiling, incendiary, I think. I don't know, but we managed to stay in the house with the rubble, and then the workmen will come in and mend it all.
Yeah.
But we also had an Anderson in the garden. Well, we were at war with the Germans, and I don't think you didn't realise, because you wasn't old enough, the implications of it all, could you, Frank?
No.
You didn't
I
take
mean,
it
our
in.
school, the fence was there, our school was there, and the aerodrome was there. We used to go over to the fence there and talk to the airmen. And then they closed the school. If there was a raid imminent, they closed the school. We'd all have to go down the shelter, but we used to nip round the back and go and talk to the airmen.
But I should think our parents covered up how worried they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
They
sure
didn't
they
want
did.
you to be as worried as they were, but they must have been very worried when you think
Yeah.
about it, Frank.
So, what was your first work, Grandad?
I was a post office messenger, and my first office was Fleet Street,
Oh,
amongst the newspapers, and it was busy.
yeah.
You never had a minute to yourself there. As soon as you come in after delivering one lot of telegrams, you'd be out there with another lot. Because the newspaper offices are very, very busy.
Mm.
Yeah. But then as new messengers new chaps would come in and take your place, you'd go up the ladder until eventually I left Fleet Street, and then you go up to the main office, which was King Edward Buildings. That is the post office in London. And you go on from there then.
How did you get the work in Fleet Street? Because obviously living in Elm Park, it's a...
We were on the train, weren't we?
Oh, I used to go up by train. I used to go up with my dad, because he was a postman at Bow,
Right.
and we used to be on the same train, I think. I don't know if it was the first or the second train of the morning.
Mm.
We'd be on that to go up to work.
And was he the one who managed to get you the job in Fleet Street? Or,
Well, yes and no. All right, you put your name forward,
Mm.
but you've still got to take an exam, and you've got to pass that, otherwise you're out.
And what was the exam like?
At that time, for me, it was difficult.
Mm.
But I mean, now I'd walk through it now.
You're a post office expert.
Yeah. It was nothing to do with post office, it was purely English, maths, that sort of thing. And you had to go. If you can do that, they'll take you to the post office. And then you sort of work your way up from there.
The thing is with you, Frank, you didn't do very well at school, did you?
No,
because of the
we
war
lost
coming.
a lot of schooling.
And
Schools
you lack
were
of schooling,
evacuated,
and
but
nobody
we weren't.
nagged you into working
No.
hard.
No.
It was different days, wasn't it? It was different days.
And how about yourself, Grandma? You said you were at May and Baker's?
Yeah, I just worked at Man Baker's in the stock office there. All the chemicals used to come in and go in the thing, and then you get the invoice in, and you write it in the ledger, and then everybody from the different places that were making different chemicals, they would come and draw it from the somebody would deliver it to them, and then you'd get a request back, and it was all ledger work in a big ledger. But I thoroughly enjoyed it because I was good at maths. And when it got a bit low and it was time to order some stuff for, like say, iodine for one of the places, you'd order it. And I sort of plodded on there. I didn't mind it. It was reasonably well paid, reasonably close to home. I didn't really want to go up and work in the city because of the bombs, but on the other hand, if I had dropped a bomb on Man Baker's, well, then I would have been blown sky high now, anyway.
Did you say that was Upminster, Man Baker's?
Well, it was Dagenham East,
Dagenham East Station.
and then you went on to Upminster. It was on the ground there, right next to the railway. I think my mum said she saw the job in the paper. She said, there, I look, go on, see if you can get it. And I was 14 then.
14, working at a chemical
Yeah,
factory.
yeah. Very, very safe, ever so safe. Oh dear. So that's where the M&B 693 and another one, 704 or something, came from. They were the first sort of chemicals that could cure everything, antibiotics really. They did discover a lot of that at Man Baker's. And then they made the chemicals, and it wasn't a very nice place to work because as you went down to the office there was all these big places where they were brewing up in there, all the chemicals coming out. But in the office it was alright, it was quite a nice little office, 2 or 3 people working in there doing the ledger work. But it was all done by hand, you never did any of the adding up on the machine or anything. It was all in your brain. But I quite enjoyed it, really.
War-intensive jobs, working as a kind of messenger, working with all the newspapers, keeping up to date, and obviously chemical factories.
Well, I was the dunce, because at school I was no good at all, because I missed so much school.
Yeah.
But
you missed 2 years.
Yeah, then when I went in the post office, the messengers had schooling. Once a week you was at school, learning arithmetic, English, all that sort of thing, and learning how the post office worked and all the forms that were in there. You had to learn all that.
Excuse me.
So that's what stood me in good stead, really, because the amount of schooling I lost by
Well, you
playing
lost
over.
2 years, didn't you?
Yeah, 2 years.
Well, I
At
did
the-
really, once I was...
At the time of the schooling that was necessary, we lost that. We used to be playing over the park, watching the aeroplanes take off from the aerodrome.
But your mum and dad, it was different those days.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't think that education was as important as we do now.
Obviously, going into that kind of war labour kind of zone of trying helping out the cause, was there a kind of flare of that inside you, going, you know, I'm doing something good, I'm doing my part?
Oh no, you were just...
No, I don't think so.
Just needed the money.
Just
As long
glad
as
to
they
get the
paid
job
you
as
your
well,
money at the
yeah.
end of the week.
How long were you both in those jobs?
Well, I went in at 14. In fact, I was just under 14 when I went in. I did by a matter of a few weeks, but then I was 14, and you go on from there. Well, in those days, I don't know what they do now, but you have schooling from the post office, and you take a general exam, and according to what you got in that, whether you became a telegraphist or a postman or a sorter and so on. Well, of course, being me, I was a postman. I was down the list a bit. Of course, then I thought, well, I can't do better than that. And I then went on and took another one as a telegraphist, and I went on as teleprinters. And went on from there. Then I took another one and went on to the counter. Well, you can't go any higher than that then. I was on the counters then. And I just went on from there.
And whenabouts was that you went on to a telegramist and counter?
I must have been about 15 and a half when I eventually got away from the bottom of the ladder and got my steps in as a telegraphist. That was a busy job. You never stopped working. And then I thought, well, I've seen them on the counters, I'll take the next one. So I took another civil service exam then and passed that, went on the counter. It began to wake me up then, my brain said, well, it's no good you sticking there, you could get yourself up. And that's what I did. And I finished up on the counter, then you get your promotion from that, you're in charge of an office. I was in charge of a small office first of all at Victoria Docks. It's a tiny office but busy. And you go on from that, you build yourself up from there.
And how about yourself, Grandma? How so you started?
Well, I just sat there. I just carried on with it really. I was quite contented. I quite enjoyed it. So, and otherwise it would have meant probably travelling up to London for something. So the war was still on. So I just sort of went on doing it till after we got married, and I decided I'd pack up work, and so I did.
I gave her enough work to do then.
Yeah.
And at the end of the war I was in the army.
Well, yes, you went in at 18,
But
didn't
I
you?
was the one that stopped it all, because as I went in, it was only a few days afterwards that they signed the paper and the war finished.
So you probably joined like June 1945, maybe?
Something like that.
Something like that.
You were 18,
I
weren't
was
you?
18 as I...
Because they called you up at 18.
Yeah.
So
well,
as he was 18, they called you up.
oh, so you were conscripted?
Yeah.
Okay. And how far up was it after your 18th birthday that the letter came in?
A few days, I think. I don't know.
It was near enough on my birthday, just a few days after that, the letter came that I was drafted then. I'd go to Maidstone and start in the army.
How did you feel?
Well, first of all, after leaving home like that, you think, oh, what am I up against now? But there were so many of you that all in the same boat.
You couldn't do
You
anything?
just couldn't do anything about it, so we thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. I didn't mind the army at all. I mean, I finished up, went to Egypt, went to Palestine, went to India. I started off in India first of all, and then came back. When they was taking British troops out of India, that's when I came back to Palestine.
You were there when India split, weren't you?
Yeah, when the Indian was split.
And how was that?
Pakistan. You know, it split from India to
Yeah,
Pakistan.
Pakistan and India are two different things now, but at that
But when
time
Pakistan
it was all
was
India.
formed.
Yeah. But it wasn't a very happy place to be in when they were fighting each other and you're in the middle.
What was your kind of role there in that kind of Pakistani independence movement? Were you kind of...
A telegraphist on the typewriter, the teleprinters. Yeah.
And the British in general, kind of in being stationed there, were you kind of keeping out of it, or...?
No, we were turfed out of it.
Would that be by the Indians or the Pakistanis?
But you said, Frank, when you left, the day you left, that they left in a lorry with a cage over the top.
Oh yeah, when you went away, you was leaving India, you got so you go to the top of the back of the lorry, that nothing could hit you in there. Oh, it was
really and truly. Years ago, Queen Victoria shouldn't have taken India over.
no, but we had no trouble. We would deal with either Pakistani or Indian, it didn't matter to us. And they didn't worry about it either. But it was between the two of them that the trouble was.
Yeah, you always used to talk about Fort William.
Fort William, yeah, I was in Fort William.
Calcutta?
So that was Calcutta, yeah. Calcutta actually is a lovely city. I enjoyed it here. That we never had trouble with the locals at all. Even when they were throwing us out, we never had trouble with them.
You went from India, was it to Palestine then or to Egypt?
No, straight to Egypt.
To Egypt. Okay. And how long were you stationed in Egypt for?
A couple of years, I suppose.
A couple of years.
About 3 years you served, didn't you?
Between 2 and 3 years in Egypt before I was demobbed. Yeah.
Was it quite an intense time, kind of living in a foreign country?
It was. I would sooner have been in India. India has got greenery, trees grow, things like that. But Egypt is a dead country. A few palm trees, but there's very little wildlife there. It's all sand, hot sand. Yeah. It's a funny place, Egypt.
How were your interactions as British soldiers to the locals there?
Well, we used to get on all right with them because the locals were being employed by the British Army.
Okay.
We had them on the camp, so they had to watch what they were saying. Yeah. Oh no, there was no animosity between us. It's the higher ups in Parliament and so on that are causing the problem, not down there.
It's quite an interesting kind of attitude. Do you think kind of
Oh yeah.
there'd be a lot more local resistance to kind of British, regiments kind of on the country, on the soil?
No, you've got the odd one or two that do everything they could to upset you and say, well, you shouldn't be here and all that sort of thing. But most of them, they enjoyed us being there. From India, I didn't go back to Palestine. I went from India to Egypt. And then I came home from Egypt and was demobbed then from home.
Okay.
But Egypt, it's a dead country. It's all sand, sand and hot wind.
So back in the UK. Back in the UK.
Back in the UK, yeah. But you went back there because you were due for demob. And you wasn't back here long before you got your cards and you're out the army.
Back into the post office.
Yeah.
Was that a kind of quick, I'm back in kind of motion?
Well, no, because you had a certain amount of leave due to.
I think you had about 6 weeks leave, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I think it was more than that.
I
I
can't
forget how much
remember.
leave, there was about 13 weeks or something. And then you reported back to the post office, and they already knew because the authority had told them, given the names of post office workers that have now been demobbed. So they knew we were there, but then they said we got so much leave, so you didn't hear from the post office until your leave was up. Then went back in.
So it was 3 years in Egypt, and how long was it in India?
In India, I spent a year, 18 months in India.
So you're back in the UK after about 5 years. I
About
imagine.
5 years or so. About 5 years it was,
Yeah.
wasn't it, really?
Must have been an odd experience returning.
I think it did him good.
Anybody that said it was no good, they're lying. You had the
Did
time of
you-
your life there, the war was over, and they thought a lot of the English in Egypt. We got the odd bad apple that caused trouble, but most of it was quite all right. There were no problems with them at all.
But it didn't do you any good to go, it didn't do you any harm to go from home, did it, Frank,
No,
really?
no.
You know, his mum was ever so upset, crying her eyes out, but I thought, well, I'll be all right. And you
No,
had to mix with all sorts of
yeah.
people that he'd never mixed with outside of
Yeah.
Life.
When did the both of you meet?
We
Oh,
met at the
Ports-
Methodist
Ports-
Church,
Ports Avenue
Methodist
Methodist
Church Youth Club.
Yeah, we belonged to the youth club there.
And when was that?
I was what?
I don't know.
14, 15, something like that.
Yeah, in our late teens,
Yeah,
18.
Middle, late teens.
So 1942, 3, something like that. Maybe?
Because
Yeah.
I used to go to a little chapel place at Horn Church, which I didn't like. The sisters all went there. And I started playing truant. I used to go to the park when they went to chapel, I used to go to the park and meet my mates over there and play. So in the finish they decided, well, what they would do, they would see if my Auntie Sis, lived at Becontree. If you go over there, she'll give you dinner on a Sunday, and what about going to that church, trying that? And that's how I came to go to Porter's Avenue Methodist Church. And went all right then, didn't we? That's where I met you, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, there was
Porter's
youth
Avenue
club and there
Methodist
was,
Church. Yeah.
you made lots of friends, didn't you?
Oh,
Still lived
yeah.
at Elm Park with your mum and dad, obviously.
Yeah, I still lived at Elm Park, but Sundays I was at Dagenham. Yeah.
And were you kind of instantly friends, or was it kind of?
Oh yes, they were friends.
Well,
yeah.
there was lots of people there, wasn't there?
Oh,
Quite a large,
yeah.
large
It was
group
quite
of young
a lively
people.
church. It was quite a lot of lively youngsters there, the same age as myself. Yeah.
Which you didn't have at the chapel, did you?
Oh,
The chapel was so much more narrow,
Yeah,
much more
they've got a
narrow.
very narrow outlook on life there, and it didn't suit me.
Well, they told you not to come anymore because you smoked, didn't they,
Yeah.
Frank?
I started smoking and said, well, don't come here, you either stop smoking or you don't come here. Well, now, what sort of thing is that they should tell you that? So I didn't go there anymore.
Yeah, understandably.
That's when my aunt said, well, would you like to come over to us? You know, you can come over for the day because we'll just do an extra dinner on a Sunday. And that's what I did for a long time. And this is the result of it, see, this one.
So, what do you know if there was a kind of point where, in knowing each other, you kind of felt like it was something more than just a friendship?
I don't know, really.
A long time ago now.
Drifted along, really. Then you went in the army and you wrote to me and I wrote to you and it just sort of went on, really. I don't think it was a flash in the pan or anything, do you?
I mean, I've got to admit it, I enjoyed my time in the army because the war was over and they'd gone out to India and I loved India. I was at Calcutta, I'd been down South India, I'd been Middle India, all over the place there, and I loved it there.
We'd never have got there, and you enjoyed it, didn't you,
Oh
Frank?
yeah,
Really?
I did.
There was no war going on, so...
So when you returned, you know, what were you kind of romantic with one another before you went to war, or was it kind of once you came back, or?
Well, we used to write to each
Oh yeah,
other.
we used to write. And when I was in the army, she'd send letters, she'd send long letters, and I'd send that short ones back.
Well, you sort of... It was sort of drifted along together, didn't we, Frank? Really?
Yeah.
We've done that ever since.
You say with dread in your eyes. So when you returned, you know, was it kind of returning to see your friend Sheila, or returning to see your kind of lover Sheila, do you think?
Well, the latter, I suppose, really.
Yes.
Because,
But you behaved yourself very well.
yeah.
You've got it, haven't you? So,
Well, I didn't know anybody else, really.
That sounds very...
Well,
I wasn't going to say anything.
That sounds wonderful. I didn't know anybody else.
Yeah.
So I thought,
well, I didn't,
she'd
because
be
I wasn't
alright.
at school,
She'll
so I
do.
knew,
She'll
I
do,
knew
'cause I don't
nothing
know anybody
about
else. Oh dear,
the
oh
girls
dear.
I knew at school. That they had all gone
Frank
by
Reid.
the board. Then I'd spent time in the army, which was all men. So I knew no girls or anything. The only one I knew was this one.
Yeah, 3 sisters.
Well, 3 sisters.
You can't marry your sister though, can you?
No, sisters.
I think it's frowned upon, roughly.
At times they were just a thundering nuisance. They never used to write to me. Elsie did send me a couple of letters once, but that's all.
When did you kind of move in together, do you think? Obviously after marriage, but...
Yeah, we got married at Walters Avenue Methodist and moved into my parents' house.
Yeah.
With they had the front room, we had the back room downstairs, and we lived there for years because there were no building going on after the war,
just after the
until
war.
they built the Elm Park estate, and then by that time we'd saved up a little bit of money, enough money for a deposit.
When did you get married? Hate to put you on the spot, Grandad.
The
Right.
Come on, what date?
Oh, it's Valentine's Day as well.
Yes,
Ooh.
yes. Oh, terrible.
May the something.
No, June the something.
June or something.
June the 25th.
25th of June.
25th.
Yeah.
You know how many years it'll be this year?
I know it's gone 25 now.
Yeah, a long way past. Any ideas, Frankie?
No, dear, I don't worry about
Be
it.
70 years in June.
Will it?
Yes, it will. If you get to June.
That was a threat. That was definitely a threat.
Threat, yeah.
She's just bought a pistol, so
I worked for a little while.
Worked for a little while.
Yeah.
After the marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it still the office work?
Yeah, so Stuart Man Bakers. Still plodding on with the ledger work.
Coping. And was there a date that you stopped?
Yes, I suddenly decided I'd had enough when I was going to stay at home then. So,
I think
but I was still at Elm
when I
Park.
got a rise, she said, well, I've had enough.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't that well paid, but on the other hand,
No.
there wasn't much fare. So, and it,
Kept you
jobs then still weren't very easy to go by, were they, Frank?
up. No, there was still a shortage of jobs.
Especially for ladies, because all the men came back from the army.
Yeah.
Do you know whenabouts it was that you stopped working? Was it before Brian or after Brian?
Before Brian, before I had
Before,
Brian.
yeah.
So it wasn't a kind of inspired by the children kind of
No, no. Before I had Brian, I just got tired and thought, well,
I've had enough.
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's gone on long enough. I'll just go home and keep the crew rooms clean, and then we had Brian, and then we had your dad.
Yeah.
But your dad was waiting after we moved to Elm Park in Ryder Gardens.
Yeah.
So
Brian was 3 when we moved in there.
Well, they was just building Elm Park then.
still.
That's where the aerodrome was, they were building, wasn't there, that side. There's still, Lynn's been down there, because as Lynn done caring, she knocked on the door once. Well, she had to go there. There was a lady wanted something done, and she said that, told her that your dad, Andrew, was born in the house there. She said, oh, fancy that.
What was the address of the house in Elm Park?
What, where we moved? Where
Yes.
we moved?
Yes.
Or where Dad lived?
Oh, where did you move to first? I'll get both written down.
You lived
Well,
at
one
Elm
is-
Park Avenue.
Yeah.
278 Elm Park
Two-
Avenue.
278 Elm Park Avenue.
That's where he moved when he was 7.
Yeah.
And so what was the house you moved to in 1954 after Brian? I think or it might be 1951.
46 Ryder Gardens.
46, right. So that was a kind of family home then.
Yeah, but that was also at the time they were calling that Raynham.
Right. With Brian having been born, you know, was that something? I don't know.
What's happened there?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a way that it doesn't sound intrusive. But were you looking to kind of have a family? Do you think, or is it? Just...
Well, I think by that time
Yeah.
I'd had enough. So everyone else was having babies. It might be a good idea to have a baby.
See, I panicked asking that question. I really didn't want to. Oh no, previous happens. What? And were you hopeful? Like, were you hoping for a boy or a girl or
No,
either way?
whatever.
I was hoping. Well, I was quite happy. He was a little so-and-so Brian was, but there you are. But I did hope for a girl when your dad was born, and I was convinced it was a girl, and I was most astonished when it was your dad.
Interesting.
They're very, very different, those two. My goodness me.
Yeah,
Chalk and cheese.
definitely.
Brian and Andrew.
Oh, yeah.
Were you also hoping for a second child with?
Oh yes, yeah.
And with their kind of, how were they as children? Do you think?
Oh, together they were fine.
Oh, they were all right.
Oh, they were very good pals. They never argued or anything.
No.
because there was 5 years between them, it might have been that, they got on extremely well.
Yeah.
I don't think they ever argued or made a lot of fuss.
I still, in myself, I still think that people say there's a enmity between the children. It's them that are doing it, the parents. I don't think it's the children so much.
No, Brian and Andrew always got on all right. Not bad at all. Not that I knew of, anyway.
Yeah.
They had their own friends because there was a bit of a gap, but
Yeah.
not too bad.
And what was the well, as individual personalities, you know, you were talking about how they were chalk and cheese, you know.
Yes.
Do you want to kind of elaborate on that a bit? Like, how were they?
Well, you know Brian is much more academic than your dad.
Brian is academic.
Andrew is good with his hands.
He's a hand worker.
He's brilliant with his hands and the job he's got for motors and things.
Yeah.
But no, they got on all right, really.
If Brian was to try and do the work that Andrew does, your motor would never run.
No, but it's the same way. And
It's the same way the other way.
Andrew's all right. He's on the computer. He
That's
knows what
right,
he's doing.
yeah.
But he's not. He couldn't do what your dad did. What Brian did in the bank. He couldn't have done that in charge of a few people, and that he wouldn't want to have done that. He's much more of a loner in some respects as far as work goes, although he's much more friendly, and he's got plenty of friends, as you know, plenty of mates all round. But they never fought. I don't ever remember them fighting.
No, we've never had trouble between the two.
No, I don't ever remember them fighting or being. They may have had a little squabble now and again, but I don't remember much about it.
Only if
Brian was always the
other
naughtier
one's
one,
toffee
but
or
there you
something
are.
like that. But apart from that, no problem. And,
So, which of you handed down the practical ability, and which of you handed down the academic?
Well, Frank's passed on the.
Well, the practical side, I
And
suppose,
I
comes
passed
from
on
me
the academic.
really, because
If I'd been left at school, I know if the
war
war hadn't have been left, if the war hadn't been on, and I'd have been allowed to finish proper schooling, I know I could have gone quite much farther. But it's no good going back and thinking, well, I could have done it, because at the time you couldn't. You couldn't. Mum and Dad would never have allowed me to go to a high school away somewhere in case it got bombed while I was away. But mind you, sending me to Man Baker's is, well, if they bombed it and all the chemicals there, I would have gone sky high. I don't think that entered their heads. You've got something in you from Brian's thing, your eyes, your blondness, and that is from all I can see in both of you is my father, and did all that work on the railway that I told you about, just a cleaner. But if he'd have come up in different times, he could have easily done things. He was quite a wise man, but never had the chance.
He was very tall, 6 foot.
Very, very tall, very, very thin. But he never had the chance to go. And he said he loved school, absolutely loved it. He did remember having to have a day off school and being very put out because they had a day off school. And when he looks back, it was because Queen Victoria had died.
Oh.
So, but he absolutely loved it. But once again, no.
I didn't like school.
He loved it, but you couldn't in those days go any farther. People wanted you to come home and earn some money.
Understandably.
Yeah.
Different climate.
Things have changed considerably, even between you and Brian and Andrew's age. But we let Brian go as far as he wanted, and we could afford to do that. And Andrew went to Ford's and did his apprenticeship.
I took a step up the ladder in charge of various offices. First of all in charge of small offices, finished up in charge of Eastern District Office next door to the London Hospital, which is quite a big office. And then I went inside purely on writing duties to arrange everything else. It was quite involved, but of course you took it a step at a time like that, and you used to walk through it, used to enjoy it.
It's a big responsibility having to kind of look over so much. Even from the start when you're on Fleet Street. It's been in some very hectic positions, very strenuous.
Fleet Street was a very, very busy office. Because you've got lots of newspapers up there, some you've probably never heard of. And they're always coming in there with this, want that, want that, want that. And you'll be able to sort them out. And I quite enjoyed it.
You did very well, love.
Did you have any kind of hopes for Brian and Andrew, or was it just kind of live your life?
No, because all you can do is tell them to do their
Well,
best.
I think Brian could have gone to university, but he didn't. He went
He
to
didn't want to.
local poly and did, when the school that they went to, the Royal Liberty, was the first school in the country to have a computer.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes. They asked the parents if we would pay something. I can't remember, it wasn't a lot of money, but on the other hand,
well, it was in those days.
it was in those days because
And we bought
Brian, more than Andrew, being tall and thin and never seemed to want a new blazer here, a new blazer there. Andrew just sort of, your dad sort of just, well, he's short, isn't he? And he didn't sort of keep going. But no, they were the first ones in the country, Royal Liberty, to have a computer.
Yeah.
And that was it, and that clicked with Brian, and that's how it's been. But Andrew struggled more. He struggled and struggled.
Yeah.
In a way, he shouldn't have been there. He'd have been better off in a technical school, but he wanted to be at the school that his dad was in. But if he'd been at a technical school, he probably would have done better. But then he did brilliant after leaving school and going to Ford's and getting his apprenticeship. And then he was made, really, absolutely made, because that apprenticeship, they said, well, you know, to him with the jobs, well, where did you, where he is now, somebody there, you know he works for Mark Knopfler, don't you?
Yeah.
Somebody there said he, you know, they knew he wanted somebody, and somebody, the other man that's up there now said, well, I know a really good mechanic, first class mechanic, and that's how your dad got the job there. Before that he'd worked in all sorts of different places as a mechanic, but the last job he had was in somewhere in Romford. He got fed up with that because he is a good mechanic, and he said the lads were coming in there, they hadn't been trained properly, and they were saying, oh no, old Andy will do that, he's good at that, Andy will do it, and he got absolutely sick to death of that. And then this job came up with Mark Knopfler, so both of them did really what they wanted, and they've both done well in their own way. But no more. Brian's all right now with motors and things, he could muck about and do things, but no way could he do.
Brian's not mechanically minded.
No, he's not, he's all right.
So they've both kind of gone very different paths there, but it's all worked out for them.
Yes, life does
yeah.
work out. Love. You'll find that out as you go along. Life will work out.
Will.
I can only hope.
Yes. Oh.
After having Brian and Andrew and having them kind of starting their lives, how did your lives change at that time?
Well, Dad, he just went up in the post office. I went and worked at, well, I was always at home looking after them until they needed more money. We needed more money. I went to work in Littlewoods. Brian had a Saturday job in Littlewoods, and I went to work there during the week, part-time. I worked there for a little while, then I worked for Lloyd's Bank for a little while, and then I got to 60 and retired. But I only ever worked part-time. It was week on and week off at the bank, and then they would never get you past grade 1 because you were a part-time worker. But it wasn't bad. It wasn't brilliant, but it wasn't bad.
How often would you be working? Like, was it quite a persistent thing throughout your life, kind of coming up to 60, that you'd be working on off part time? Was it just kind of during times where you needed for money?
No, I didn't work for many times, and then as they grew up I thought, well, I'm just spending time at home and we could do with some more money. So Brian said my mum's looking for a job in Littlewoods, so I served in Littlewoods then for a little while, got a bit fed up with that, and then lots of friends I knew were working in the bank week on and week off, so I thought, well, I'll have a go at that. But that was in London, and I did it I did it until they retired me at 55. But if you were a part-time worker, you were retired at 55. The only way I could have gone on to 60 was to go full-time, and I couldn't do it. I wouldn't do it, and I couldn't do it. Part-time was fair enough. But apart from that, we just plodded on, haven't we, Frank?
Yeah.
And I'm remembering very well still.
Yeah, it's very impressive, both of you. Honestly.
There you are, you've impressed.
Did you kind of, for the Royal Mail, Grandad, did you kind of, was it a kind of steady progression? You kept going to a bigger office and a bigger office?
Well, yes, I mean the Eastern District Office.
Thing is though,
Counter was a big one,
I
next door to London Hospital.
That means, did you ask? You didn't ask.
Less so, more just kind of your general career progression, kind of where it led.
That's it. They'd offer you the job, sort of
Well,
thing.
your name is on the list, and you gradually go up the list until you get the top there. And if there's a big job going, like Eastern District Office, my name was on the list. All right, yeah, fine. So I then went in charge of that one. But it was just general progression. They knew that if you were halfway up that list, you were quite capable of doing that job, and it was quite a job. The big office right next door at London Hospital, and they come in, and you've got loads of people around there that run accounts there with you, and you've got to keep all that in mind. But I quite enjoyed it.
They retired you at 58.
58.
Oh,
that's right.
Well, you'd had years and years ago. You had back operations, didn't you, Frank?
Yeah.
And then your back went at the post office, and you've been pushing a trolley load of money again, haven't you?
Yeah.
You devil. And then Grandad was
You
58.
tried pushing £5,000 of silver on a trolley.
So they said, what about you taking retirement? It was only 2 years off retirement, and your pension was full. And I can tell you this now, you needn't boast about it, but he's got a blooming good pension, and they've been paying it ever since. But it is a good pension, isn't it, Frank?
Oh,
Good gracious. So we won't give in. We're carrying on as long as we can.
I'm gradually bleeding the post
Yeah.
office.
They're all closing, aren't they?
Bringing us to recession.
Did you read the paper out there, Frank? You know the local elections are coming on.
No.
They're closing the post office completely in Clacton.
Are they?
Yep. The Labour Party are absolutely up in arms over it. They've got it as far as Parliament now, that they're making Clacton, well, Clacton isn't good now, it's sad, because Clacton was quite a nice place, really. Yes, they're closing the post office completely.
They can.
I
wasn't brilliant at school, and I think my parents worried about what I was going to do when I left school.
don't think they were very worried, Frank, your parents, really,
and
were they?
they said, come in the post office. Of course, I went in the
Well, you
post
did what your
office and
parents told you,
Yeah.
basically.
And then from there you take a general exam, and I came way down on that. And because the higher you go, the better your job you get. But I was down amongst the postmen, so I was a postman. But then I didn't stop there because I took other exams in, and I gradually worked up until I was on a counter, which you couldn't go any higher. Then you're going on to supervision. And it just worked its way through like that, that's all.
So when you did retire, were you still living in Elm Park at that point?
Yes.
Yeah.
What kind of time did you move to Frinton?
a year before Jamie was born, that's all I know.
Oh, I think he's 28
He's 30
now.
this year.
Oh no, is he 30? Oh,
He's 30 this year.
Christ.
The ball's in your
Well,
court now.
Yeah.
Simple reason we had, well, you wouldn't have known the house. It was just a 3-bedroom, one of the bedrooms was small, just 3-bedroom little semi, wasn't it, Frank?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Down part.
I thought, well, I'm keeping all these rooms warm, and that, a nice little bungalow would be nice. So we looked around, but there's no bungalows around there at all.
So we came down
And we
here.
came down
Look
here. I
round
don't
here.
really know, but we've been very happy here.
Yeah.
And well, there we are.
When you retired, obviously, I know you've been jet setting a little bit. You've seen a few places and
Yeah.
gone on a few holidays. What kind of places did you end up seeing? I know there are a few cruises and everything.
We've had 2 or 3 cruises.
Yeah.
We had lots of holidays in Devon, lots of holidays in Yorkshire.
We've been over on the continent a couple of times, haven't we?
Yeah, mostly on coach trips though, Frank.
Yeah.
Never under your own steel.
Oh,
See.
no.
No. We used to belong to the people round the corner where the refreshment place is. So they've got a couple of clubs. We belonged to that, and they did coach holidays.
Mm.
So we used to go on their coach holidays.
Mm.
We went on some with the National Trust, didn't we, Frank?
Mm.
Over England.
We've done north, we've done the Midlands, we've done west, we've done east. Oh, we've done the rounds.
I haven't been to Greece, so
No,
we've
I
been.
didn't say Greece, I said east.
Oh, east. So I'm deaf as well now.
You're not that bad.
No, well, we both got hearing aids in, so
Yeah.
you take them out at night, you can't hear a word from until the next morning.
Are there any places that you wish you would have been able to see?
I would like to have gone back to India.
I would like to have gone
It's-
to Canada,
It's a
very much so.
fascinating country, India.
But
I enjoyed my stay there.
I never. I'm inclined to think, well, what you haven't got, you've gotten all right. So
Oh, yeah.
How comes you'd like to go to Canada? It's a very specific place to kind of want to go to.
I don't know. I just found I would like. No, America never bothered me, but I always thought I would like to go to Canada, but didn't. So I think we've been very lucky to be able to do
I'm
what we've
pretty
done.
ahead because I've never been to Canada.
And whatnot.
Palestine, India, Ceylon, places like that. I've been to those.
We've never been to Spain. No, we did have one holiday
Yeah,
in
we've
Spain.
been to Spain.
Yes, we did have. I wasn't that impressed actually, but we have been to Spain.
Hot and smelly.
Whereabouts in Spain did you go to?
A long time ago.
Just kind of like a beach holiday or like a...
Well, it was on a coach.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Various places. We never went under our own steam.
Yeah. Was there kind of time for holidays while Grandad was working, or was it something...
Well, we used to go to Clacton.
Yeah.
There was a big caravan, but it's still there. The caravan park. We used to hire a caravan and go.
Mm. That's
We
not
had
when,
to-
not when we lived here, that was when we lived down at,
Yeah.
yeah.
We used to go down onto the beach in Clacton. Not right into Clacton. Onto the beach on the left of
outskirts,
Clacton.
yeah.
And I'll tell you this tale, it's against your dad, poor old dad. Your dad's always been a good sleeper, he was a wonderful baby. Wonderful baby. Brian was always didn't want to sleep. Your dad would, if you got down, laid Andrew down,
He was away.
he'd go, lovely. So when we used to go down on the beach and they'd play on the beach, and then after we would have a quick sandwiches, didn't we, Frank? Take
Yeah.
sandwiches. Put him in the pushchair, well, we only had a small pushchair there, lay him down and walk into Clacton, which was a fair walk, but
Yeah.
Brian was always a good walker anyway.
Yeah.
And then we go onto the end of the pier, and Brian used to go on
You on the railway and
two or
the
three
roundabouts.
things, wasn't allowed many, but 2 or 3 things, and we'd come off the pier and start walking back, and by that time your dad, oh, he's
Wake
great,
up.
come and wait. And he
What have
said,
you been doing?
what have you been doing? He said, well, Joe,
Nothing.
we've just been walking up and down. He said, your poor dad never knew that he'd been on the pier. But that was his treat for being 5 years older and a good boy.
Yeah.
If he hadn't been a good boy. He just, Brian still remembers it, because you used to have to cross the road and go a long way along, past the park, and you get to the caravan site. And we let him go, because he was always a bit adventurous, Brian. Let him go off on his own. He remembers this to this day. And he said, can I go along there then on my own? Because he's a bit of a loner. So he said, yes, but don't cross the road. And because when we got up there, what had he done? He crossed the road. He really did get into trouble that day.
Yeah.
A little
But
tyke.
there we are.
Were there any other kind of stories about Brian and Andrew kind of growing up?
Well, Brian, it was always Brian. Andrew was a good boy. Andrew was a good boy. Another time we came home, do you know these lamps where the oil goes up? Lava lamps. So we came home and a terrible smell in the house. And Brian had warmed up the lava lamp. And it got really, really hot, and he thought to himself, I'm going to get into trouble over this. So he puts it under the cold tap to cool it down, because it all smashed to pieces, glass everywhere, and this terrible stench in the house where he'd broken
the glass.
he got an inquiring mind, you see. He said, well, I thought to myself, I wonder how long it would be if I did that, or if I better do something about it. So, but if anything was sort of broken, I'm afraid it was always Andrew. And your dad was a good boy. Brian was more adventurous.
Brian's wicked. You wouldn't think it now, looking at him.
No, no.
He's sarcastic enough, but he doesn't give a troublemaker kind of look
No,
about him.
but he was never a troublemaker for fighting or with other people or anything.
No,
'cause
he was never in trouble at school.
He always got
or
on ever
anything
so
like
well
that.
with people.
Just for pushing
There were
the
two
limits.
boys next door, Peter and Michael. Peter was very, very clever, went to Oxford. Michael was reasonably clever, and they were older than Andrew. Well, they were, because when Andrew was born, I remember Michael was allowed to come up to the bedroom to see the baby, and he was so thrilled. I've seen the baby. Now he was, Peter was, and they were Peter, and Brian and Michael sort of played together, and they were very good as well. They had nice, used to go over the park together, didn't they? Behaved themselves. Brian has told us since that they used to go over the aerodrome and jump into the hay at the bottom where it closed down, but we never knew the actual years afterwards. But they were they just stuck together though.
They had haystacks up there, and they used to climb up the top of them and jump.
In.
But the airmen at Hornchurch Aerodrome,
But I think that's
always had a
really and
crowd of
truly
kids in there.
after the aerodrome closed. But Lynn's dad was in the army, was in the Air Force, and her mum. And that's where they were stationed, over at Hornchurch.
And was that, obviously, I don't want to go too much into my mum and dad, because obviously I don't know how much they'd want to share, and it was probably better something spoken with them. But
give them a surprise.
yeah, oh yeah, sure.
No, Andrew, your dad was always the good one.
Yeah.
But Brian never did wicked things.
No.
They were just
Mischievous, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, he's
But
got an
that's all.
interesting mind. He would also, he would take
I
things
wonder
which
what would happen if I did
that. Yeah.
Only one way to find out.
Yeah.
Do it.
Break for lava lamp.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Brian's reached the end of his kind of time, working, and
Yeah.
my dad, that time will probably come sometime, soonish.
Yeah.
Are there any kind of, the kind of routes they've taken, like, how do you feel about them,
I think they've
I think
both
they've
done
both done
extremely well.
extremely well for themselves.
I don't know whether you've heard this. I told your dad that Brian's been awarded a certificate for the best social worker in Chelmsford.
I think my dad told me about
Told you
this,
that.
Yeah.
And he was going to, he was going to go, and even at the award ceremony, he was going to go and pick up some milk on his bike or something like that. And they were going, no, you've got to stay here, don't go and do that.
Yeah.
And they're still at his own award ceremony as a surprise, he's still trying to help out.
But he doesn't boast about it, he just told me, and he said, because
It's
you know
gotta
I
be
don't
done,
like
I'll do
doing
it.
that sort of thing. But no, they're fine. And Sam's fine, he's doing okay, and you and your brother are doing okay. So we just got to hang on now till you get your MA.
Yeah, well, you can hang on further than that.
Well,
we'll
try.
at least try. What would you want with the future?
For the future for the two of us.
The future for both of you, yeah, and the future for, your family, and the future for, everything.
Well, I'd like to see you get your MA. I'd like to see Jamie settle down, but if he doesn't, well, he's quite happy. Your dad and your mum are plodding on. I'd like to see them have a happy retirement. And I'd like my rheumatics to be better than they are. And I'd like Grandad to remember a bit more. Because Grandad is getting very forgetful.
My memory's shot now.
Yeah, but you're not so too bad. Well, the man came to do our feet on Tuesday. And he said, good gracious, I never realised you two were as old as that. He said, you want to see some of them that I visited?
Yeah. Trust me when I say you're doing better than most.
Well, this is it, we're all right.
Now, what's upset
But
me?
we can't. Grandad is fed up with not being able to get down the garage, and everywhere he can't, not allowed
There's so
out.
much down there that I could do. I know I could do it, but I daren't go down there and try.
Not allowed out there, down there, without your shoes and with somebody with you. You should have it, And
I
we
should come
can
back and tell
argue
you what
about
I've
that.
done.
Oh, the hand's gone.
Yeah.
What, do you have any kind of hopes for the family or anything in the future, Grandad?
Just
Well,
a
that
happy
you
life.
both keep happy and
Happy life.
safe, Not that I'm worried about Jamie with London, but London is getting a more violent place, but I'm sure where he is, it's okay.
Yeah.
London has always been a
But
violent
not like it
place.
is with the knife business now, Frank. Clacton is, poor old Clacton is in a terrible state. But there we are.
When I was a messenger at Fleet Street, there were certain roads we were warned off on. Don't go up there. Because always somewhere you put a time bomb on there and this sort of thing, or because I was round where all the newspapers are. But it's always been like
I
that
suppose
in
it
London.
has, dear.
Yeah.
I think it's getting worse, and I'd like it to be a better world, but there you are.
Well, with that, is there anything else you'd kind of like to add to this? Anything you'd like to talk about
Well,
specifically?
We're very proud of all of you. Very proud of what you've done, and Jamie, and ever so proud of Sam,
And what you're
how well
doing.
he's done. And they've got a lovely
I
little
wouldn't have
family
to
they've
start
got.
anything like this.
Very, very happy. Those two girls are
Oh yeah.
hard-working, happy little family.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, we're all proud of all of you.
Thank you very much for talking to me. I really appreciate it.
And when you've got all your hair cut and everything and you're working hard somewhere, I hope we'll still be here to see you.
Let's
You will
not
be.
go too far.
No, let's not go too far.
The hair way too far. You need to calm down with that, honestly. Thank you very much for talking
Well,
to me.
When you retire, when you get your MA, so you get a job, you'll be able to afford to have a haircut.
I mean, worst comes to worst, I'll get a bowl and just put it over my head.
Yeah, that's it, pudding basin.
Flip around a little
It's
bit.
not,
Basin.
it's not as good as that picture though.
No, definitely not. Maybe I should re-dye it some kind of colour.
Yeah.
Maybe bright fluorescent pink, something like that.
Yeah.
Something very, acceptable and maybe I'll look
It was
towards
a very nice
that.
day.
Yes.